In this video, I'm going to be finding out what's lurking in the shadows. Join me. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy with you once again. And it's that time of year again, autumn, or the fall as they call it stateside. It's that time when the sun starts to get low in the sky. We get some wonderful, wonderful golden hour shots. But unfortunately, or fortunately, some really, really long, difficult to handle shadows. But instead of trying to avoid the shadows, why not try taking the photographs of the shadows themselves rather than the subject that you might normally take the photograph of? Now, I've come out here in the middle of the town to take some photos here, some in monochrome and some in colour. And I'm going to concentrate on the shadows rather than what's causing them a little bit on this. And it's a great little challenge now and again to do, to go out there and see what you can do with the camera and get something a little bit unusual and to take photographs of something which you can really play around with. Shadows are something we can't avoid, we've got them all the time, but of course there's different types of shadows. You can get really sort of short ones when you've got a high overhead sun or light source, or some really long low ones when you've got the low light source or very low evening sun like we've got tonight. The other thing of course is that it depends on the quality of the light. We've got a beautiful clear sky today out here in Carlisle, and because of that the shadows themselves are very hard. We're going about hard and soft light. Well, what makes it hard and soft is the edges of the shadows. If you've got a particularly hard light where there's not much diffusion, you'll find, if you look behind me at some of the edges on there, you'll find that the edges are very, very hard, very clear edges. Look at myself on the wall as I walk past this, where I'm clear straight in the sun. You can see it's a very, very clearly well-defined shadow on there. You can see the camera being held in my hands and my head very clearly on there. So hard light's going to give us very, very sharp edge shadows, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We can use those to our advantage. If we're trying to do something a little bit more artistic rather than just a straightforward shot of something, we can actually use those shadows to give us some definition and to play around with the contrast. One of the things I love doing when I'm taking photographs of shadows is actually, in post-production, really upping the contrast a bit, and you'll see that on some of the shots that I'm putting alongside here. One of the things I really like doing when I'm taking photographs of shadows, I tend to like to roll the exposure a little bit underexposed by maybe half a stop or a full stop, and I tend to find that really increases the contrast between the dark and the light. And especially if I'm shooting in monochrome, it really seems to bring out shadows to the best. The other thing I tend to do an awful lot is look at buildings. I look up. There's a huge amount of shadows that you can see along the edge of buildings where one building is encroaching its shadows onto the form of another. It can be a really interesting sight, and it can give you a different outlook as to what you see in the building. Now, as I just said about that high contrast, one of the advantages that you can use is it will actually make the highlights stand out more. So if you've got a bit of a shadow like you've got on the right hand side there, you suddenly find that the brickwork can come alive, and some of the colours at this time of day are absolutely fantastic, so it really can make them stand out where you normally would be a rather bland shot. Now what I often do is when I'm taking photographs of shadows, I like to get some of the original object in as well, because that'll give you the original form and shape of the item. But often the shadows, as the sun changes, will stretch and deform, and it makes a really visually interesting thing at times. Now before we go and have a look at some of the photographs I've taken of the shadows this afternoon, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and like this video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. It's free, remember. If you like the video, there's a little PayPal link if you want to buy me a cup of coffee. Anyway, let's go and have a look at some of the photographs. So as the light changes and autumn comes on, don't let it put you off your photography. Just see it as new challenges you have to go out and try. See, you can't do this in the height of summer. In the height of summer, the shadows tend to be far too much overhead, or the sun, even at the time for the long shadows, tends to be far too bright and doesn't have any character. The autumn and the springtime are fabulous for getting these really nice long shadows with some wonderful warm light along with them. So if you haven't tried shadow taking, take your camera out, give it a try. Till the next time, this is Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy saying, get your camera out, take some shadows pictures, and have fun with your photography. See you later. Bye bye. Roll titles.